My name is Damien Glendinning from Complex Countries, and I'm very pleased to welcome today Radhika Rao, who's an economist with DBS in Singapore, although she's very originally from India, so very familiar with today's topic and a great expert on India. So Radhika, could you start off by taking us through the targets, the growth targets for the Indian economy and what's being done to make them happen?
Certainly, thank you for the time. So India, in terms of its growth forecast, of course, goalposts are that you want to double the size of the economy within the decade. Think of it in the context of another Germany being produced within over the next 10 years. So for India, in terms of its growth forecast, it's at about 4 trillion, and our baseline assumptions are that it's going to double from current levels. So certainly not a market that can be ignored. And in terms of the growth numbers, it's going to be about 6 to 7% growth target. And you do know many other major economies that, when you really grow by this pace, you certainly add much more to the overall global pie. But I think the moot point to ask here is that, what kind of a growth is it? We certainly look for growth which is not only, balanced, but it's also durable. So in terms of this growth should be essentially non-inflationary. It should also not entail too much of reliance on one particular growth, catalyst, be it exports or be it investments. We would think a more balanced growth, various catalysts working with each other would be much more a preferred route. I think from that angle, again, India is very cautious of that and is very consciously trying to revive consumption. Consumption has already been growing at about 4-5%. At the same time, investment growth as well, not only rely on construction and real estate sector, but also the government doing a lot more in terms of the physical as well as the digital infrastructure piece. And thirdly, also the composition of exports has been improving, much more manufactured goods becoming a part of exports as well as services. So I think the point is to have steady growth, is to have durable as well as a well-balanced growth. I think that's what India is looking at. And at 6-7%, it's going to put the growth rate as among the strongest when you compare it with other major advanced countries, economies in the world.
You mentioned manufacturing. Again, I think today, until now, most people have not viewed India as a huge manufacturing center, and there's several obstacles. Can you take us through some of the things that are being done to encourage more manufacturing and to make life easier?
Certainly, the government has been very focused on improving the ease of doing business for domestic as well as foreign investors. So I would put the efforts into 4 big, pillars. So if the first would be, of course, plumbing, which is essentially improving the streamline application process. There are quite a lot of rules and regulations that had to be passed on. So all of that has been made more condensed to minimize the number of steps to say register a business, for instance, not only exit, but focus also on entry as well as exit of the business. So introduction of the bankruptcy law. And you've also seen the GST. Again, GST, introduction of a unified tax system, really helps to, again, merge a lot of myriad of center as well as state taxes. So that's been a very efficient system, and the collections continue to improve. And at the same time, you've got digitalization. I mean, that's, I think, one of the major improvements that have happened. And you see that not only in terms of, particular sectors, but across the board. If you take about payments, a lot more efficient cross-border transactions. You also talk about transport of goods across states. That doesn't require pen and paper anymore. All of that toll payments, all of that has become extremely digitized. And if you talk about even subsidies being given domestically, the leakages have been stopped as well. So digitalization has been a major force in terms of the reform process that has been put into place. The other one, of course, is when we talk about lowering costs, the production link scheme that has been introduced. This is to incentivize businesses to improve incremental sales. And this spans about 10 to 15 sectors. Involves many of the crucial sectors, especially if you talk about electronics, semiconductors, automobile, pharma, chemicals, and so on and so forth. Then, of course, it's addressing legacy baggages. You need corporates and banks to come into this with healthier balance sheets, and that's exactly what is happening. You've got debt levels that are low for corporates as well as banks, so ready to take on and become the next, in a growth engine. So these are some of the buckets that we would look at quite closely, and that's why I think it's not only focusing on a thing, but making sure that overall efficiency as well as productivity go up. And I think this is not only on the manufacturing space, but we see a lot more interest in the services sector as well.
Okay, so we're talking about making life much easier and streamlining the red tape. Obviously, there's still need to administer things, but so far that's been a major obstacle. So you're saying that we can expect that to improve a lot.
Streamlining the process to register businesses, as well as states actually taking a much more proactive role. You could name many of the states across who are vying to attract the businesses. They've actually streamlined, say, land acquisition or labor availability, so on and so forth, and have very successfully managed to attract very big names. Let me give you an example of Apple's contract manufacturer. We do know Apple is looking to diversify away from China. India has been a major, it's one of the centers which has really grown very fast. So contract manufacturers through Foxconn, through Winstron, all of that has actually they've increased their production. They plan to at least streamline 25% of their business through India. So Apple has been very big. At the same time, you've got Micron from the US, Flextronics. You've got Samsung, which is also already a big player and continues to grow in the electronics field. So improving red tape, coming back to your question, certainly been bringing in much more transparency. And I think apart from just simplifying the processes, also digitalization. That's been a major, kind of trigger to simplify as well as improve efficiency across the board. These certainly have made sure that red tape worry has been addressed.
Okay, Radhika, I could carry on listening to this for hours. Unfortunately, we need to keep this short. I think that's been extremely instructive. And if I can summarize it, India is already a big market, but it's going to double in size. And you need to look at it as another Germany or another Japan, which in and of itself is an interesting target. So you can't afford to ignore the market, but at the same time, everything is being done to simplify life and make it easier to use India, as not only a services base, but a manufacturing base. So I think there's a clear message: ignore it at your peril.